Okay, thank you, MC. The Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas Sebelas Maret, Professor Dr. Samanhudi, Vice Dean for Academic Research and Students of the Faculty of Agriculture, Dr. Eka Handayanta, Vice Dean for Human Resources, Finance and Logistics of the Faculty of Agriculture, Professor Dr. Sudadi, and Vice Dean for Planning, Partnerships, Business and Information of Agriculture, Dr. Agung Wibowo. Distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Koen from Ghent University, Belgium, and Claudia Delbaere, the General Manager of Cacaolab, Bvba, Belgium. This from Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas Sebelas Maret, and other universities, government institutions, industries, and all participants of the international webinar today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and good morning to all of you. Personally and on behalf of the Department of Food and Technology, Indonesian Association of Food Technologists, PATPI, Surakarta chapter, I would like to welcome all of you to the international webinar, Science Behind the Quality of Belgian Chocolate. And I heard from the committee that more than 400 registered participants and come from more than 10 countries, and I'm really happy for it. And this event is organized by our Department of Food Science and Technology, Indonesian Association of Food Technology, Surakarta chapter, with full support from Ghent University and Cacaolab Belgium. And it's a pre-event, our international workshop on cocoa and chocolate that is planned to be held on October 2021. I'm very happy that is in the event, we can invite world-class scientists, Ghent University, and the founder of Cacaolab, my very good friend, Professor Koen Dewettinck, who is really expert in chocolate science and technology. I am so pleased to meet you, Prof. Dewettinck, although in this event we meet virtually. And also I'm very happy we can invite my colleagues, Claudia Delbaere, our manager of Cacaolab Bvba, Belgium. And so thank you so much, Prof. Koen and Claudia, for your valuable time to give a lecture and share with us your knowledge and experiences in this event. I'm very honored to have you here. Thank you. And I hope the activity can be improved for all the participants to get more insight about current issues in cocoa and chocolate science and technology and related area. And also that more fruitful partnership between Universitas Sebelas Maret, US, and Ghent University can be continued. And as I mentioned that there will be an event called International and Chocolate Workshop 2021 that will be supported by Ghent University and Cacaolab as well. Therefore, I hope many participants from this event can also join in our workshop in October 2021. Well, okay, I don't want to take time. So again, very welcome to each and every one of you. And please enjoy the international webinar today. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I return back to MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. MC. The Honorable Prof. Dr. Koen Dewettinck from Ghent University, Belgium. Also, Engineer Claudia Delbaere, the General Manager of Lab, Belgium. College Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas Sebelas Maret, and all participants international webinar, The Science Behind the Quality of Belgian Chocolate. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon to all of you. Personally, and on the behalf of the Faculty of Agriculture, I would like to welcome you to the international webinar, The Science Behind the Quality of Belgian Chocolate. This activity is organized by the Department of Food Science and Technology, Faculty of Agriculture, with the full support from Ghent University, Chocolate Lab, and Indonesian Association of Food Technologists, PATPI, Surakarta. I am so pleased that in this activity, we can invite world-class scientists from Ghent University, Prof. Dr. Koen Dewettinck, who is really expert in chocolate science and technology. He is also the founder of Cacaolab. In this occasion, we also invite Engineer Claudia Delbaere, General Manager of Cacaolab, Belgium, who gave a talk about in cocoa and chocolate industry. So, thank you for all the speakers for their valuable time to give a lecture in this event. I hope this activity can be really useful for all participants to get insight about recent issues in cocoa and chocolate technology and related areas. This is highly important because Asia is one of the cocoa producing countries in the world. I see here that the participants, not only from the university, but also from government and industries. I also see here that some of our colleagues from abroad, particularly from International Mobility Foundation, IMS, network, also and the webinar. So, thank you for your participation. Finally, I hope that more fruitful cooperation between the Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas Sebelas Maret, and Ghent University can be continued in the future. As I know, in October, there will be an event called International Cocoa and Chocolate Course, ICCC 2021, that will be supported by Ghent University and Cacaolab as well. Therefore, this webinar is considered as the pre-event of the International Cocoa and Chocolate Course, and I really hope many participants from the event can also join the course in October. Well, I don't even want to take too much of your time. To fulfill the request from the organizers, I would like to officially open the international webinar, Science Behind the Quality of Belgian Chocolate by Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you, and please enjoy the webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Haisa, for the kind introductions. Okay, welcome to all the participants. First of all, we are so delighted to see several participants from various countries, because I was informed that there are those from around 16 different countries registering for this event. So welcome and good afternoon to those who join this webinar from eastern parts such as Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and of course, Indonesia. And for some of you who joined this webinar from the western part of the world, in Belgium, Netherlands, Sweden, UK, and India, Saudi Arabia, and also some African countries, I wish you a very good day. So it is so nice also that not only researchers from colleges and also students from universities join this webinar, there are also some colleges from food industry, NGO, government bodies, and entrepreneurs also in these lectures. So here in this special occasion, we are going to learn a very interesting topic about cocoa and chocolate products. I believe that most of you love chocolate. I mean, who don't love chocolate, especially Belgian chocolate. So today we will have two remarkable speakers from Belgium who will tell us the secret behind the quality and the delicacy of Belgian chocolate. And here are the profiles of our speakers. Okay. The first speaker is Professor Koen Dewettinck. He is currently a full professor, head of the Laboratory of Food Structure and Function of the Department of Food Technology, Ghent University. He has since 1999 led an international research group, a big group with around 30 researchers working on the field of food design. And then his particular research interests are related to dairy products, margarine and shortening, and then chocolate, of course, and confectionery products. So starting from this huge interest toward chocolate in November, he founded a spin-off company in Ghent University called Cacaolab Bvba that focuses on R&D as well as trainings in the area of cocoa, chocolate, and other related products. And our speaker is a beautiful lady, Claudia Delbaere, who works together with Professor Dewettinck in Cacaolab Bvba. She is a bioengineer, graduated from Ghent University, majoring in bioscience and engineering. And Claudia has enormous experience in R&D of cocoa products. So she has around 5 years experience in research and function in Ghent University, and during that time, she was involved in two big projects. One was the European project called Praline, where she looked at the migration-induced fat bloom in pralines. And then the second one was the Flanders Food Project called Fat Bloom. We involved several research, more than 20 Belgian companies also involved in this project. Since 2013, Claudia has been active in Cacaolab and is the general manager of the company. So both speakers surely have a lot to share with us today. Professor Dewettinck will talk specifically about Belgian chocolate. He's probably going to disclose several factors influencing its quality. And after that, Claudia shares with us insights related to trends, issues, and the strategy in development of chocolate with excellent properties. However, since the lecture is not going to be long, which is 20 minutes each, so I hope you all can engage fully during this lecture and make sure to participate during the Q&A session. We will have 30 minutes for the audience to ask questions at the end of the lecture. So please, you can write your questions in the chat box. And we will to pick up your question during the Q&A session. You can also use the raise hand feature on your Zoom. So, and during the end of the session, we don't need you to ask questions directly to the speaker. So without taking any longer, now I would like to proceed to the lectures. But before that, Let me invite Claudia to give a brief introduction on Cacaolab. Okay, so Claudia, should we start?
Yes, thank you, Annie. I will share my screen. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very glad to hear that so many people are joining this webinar. And I'm also glad that I can present our company Cacaolab to you in a few slides. The slogan of our company is innovation and from bean to lean, and that actually captures everything that we do. So there are innovation part, the train part, and then also from bean to lean. I will come back to those aspects later on. You can see a brief history of our company. Professor Koen Dewettinck published his first scientific publication related to chocolate in 1996. And a couple of years later, in 1999, he became professor at Ghent University, leading the Laboratory of Food Technology and Engineering. Within that laboratory, a Flemish Technological Advisory Center was established called VLAS. This was an advisory center for the confectionery industry, which was a collaboration with Chopra Bisco, the Belgian Chocolate Federation. This advisory center existed for 8 years and was also funded by the Flemish government. After 2 times 4 years, the funding was no longer possible, unfortunately. But in the meantime, Professor Dewettinck started negotiations with Ghent University to create a spin-off company. Now, the name Cacaolab was used for the first time in 2009. Then it was still part of Ghent University, and Cacaolab was officially opened that year. Later on, in 2012, after 4 years of negotiations, the company Cacaolab was finally founded, a spin-off company of Ghent University. And in early 2013, the know-how that belonged to Ghent University was officially transferred from the university to Cacaolab. So that allowed us to use the knowledge to give advice to our customers in Belgium and Europe, but also worldwide. Then in 2014, we moved with Cacaolab from the buildings of Ghent University to Evergem, which is at about 10 kilometers from Ghent. But in the meantime, we already moved a second time. Actually, last year, in full corona crisis, we moved to Dewettinck, which is on the other side of Ghent, to a building that is 3 times as big as the previous one, allowing us to further grow in the next coming years. What you can also see in this history overview is that we organized already since 2012 several cocoa and chocolate processing workshops. Initially, it was organized mainly by Ghent and so with Cacaolab, but since 2017, this workshop is also by Cacaolab. And we organize this normally every 2 years. This year, actually, we could let this workshop happen, at least in real life in Belgium. But we will focus on organizing again in 2022, maybe somewhat different format depending on the COVID situation. But we would be happy to actually start again this organization of this workshop. In this slide, you can see the entire team of Cacaolab. So there is, of course, Professor Dewettinck, who is the founder of the company, also CEO. He likes to call himself the inspirator of the company. That's actually a major part of his end to the company, professor. Then there is also Professor Beneditas, also professor at Ghent University, specialized in intellectual property and business development. He's an advisor for a company. There is Professor Katien Messen, who is CFO of our company. And then besides myself, we all have a team of 3 different project managers. As you can see here, we have also a technical staff who is also chocolatier. So Beatrice is doing the analysis for us, as well as making chocolate products on a laboratory scale. Now, our mission basically is to translate fundamental science into real production processes. That's key to our company. It's not only based on know-how, so knowing how we can solve a certain problem, but more importantly, this know-how is based on know-why. We want to understand what's happening. What are the reasons why something works? So we really stress also on making the link between, for instance, the composition of chocolate, the process parameters, and that allows us to understand everything, to have this specific know-why. Only to our company is the tacit knowledge. We haven't had explicit knowledge. Is the knowledge that you can find in books, and that is required to perform routine analysis. But that knowledge is difficult to transfer from one person to another. You cannot transfer that type of knowledge by writing it down in books. Yeah, it's experience, years of experience, and our company is mainly focusing on tacit knowledge and not on routine analysis. Regarding our vision, we try to bridge science, practice, and art, and have the ambition to become the world-leading company in chocolate and confectionery engineering, also training, actually. Now, when I to slogan, there was the part from bean praline. At Cacaolab, we have a small-scale experimental production facility to convert cocoa beans into cocoa liquor and further chocolate and chocolate-related products like pralines. And we can make all these products on a lab and pilot scale. And so Cacaolab is using all this equipment. Besides that, we have an extended analytical toolbox to test all of the cocoa products in every step of the production process and also during storage. Then innovation is also crucial for our company. So we are doing a lot of R&D projects. So we do research and development in the area of cocoa and chocolates, mainly for our customers. Can be companies that produce chocolates or that process cocoa into ingredients. But we also work very often for ingredients manufacturers that supply ingredients that can be used in chocolate and related products. Here you can see an example of the type of companies that we are working for. So on the one hand, as I mentioned, we have ingredient buyers like Beneo, Friesland Campina. They supply sugar and sugar replacers. That's the case for Beneo. Dairy materials, that's the case for Friesland Campina. We have a very good collaboration with Puratos. It's a Belgian chocolate manufacturer. And we also work for companies that process chocolate further into other derived products like the Belgian chocolates or the pralines. An example is Van den Bulke. And we also have good collaborations with equipment manufacturers like Stefan, which belongs to the process. And work together with them to improve their equipment to produce high quality chocolates or other related products. Now, research opportunities at Cacaolab can be actually classified into three different categories. We can focus on condition, we can focus on the processing, also on the storage conditions. I'm not going into details for all of these, but I just want to give an example of what we can do. If we focus on the composition, for instance, we can study the flavor potential of specific cocoa beans. Here, this is a case study from Colombia, where we collected samples from different farms. We then can determine all different quality parameters of these cocoa beans, formation index, but also other quality parameters. We can process cocoa beans into cocoa liquor and further chocolate. And we also usually do all kinds of analysis to evaluate the quality of both the cocoa liquor and the final chocolate. We have a trade panel that can do QD test, the qualitative descriptive analysis, to evaluate the flavor and the aroma of the final chocolate. So here you can see an example of for 4 different descriptors: cacao, acidity, bitterness, and astringency. But of course, we have a range of descriptors that our panel is trained for. And last but not least, the training part. We have been organizing several trainings in the last couple of years and plan to organize even more trainings, not only at Cacaolab in Belgium, but also we will be working more on online as well. The most important workshop is of interest to most of you is our cocoa and chocolate processing work, which I referred to earlier in the presentation. This is normally a 2 weeks intensive program, training program. This is 2 different modules, taking 1 week. And during the work, we dive into the science behind the whole process from bean to bar, together with international guest lectures, but also with lecturers from Ghent University and Cacaolab. We organize practical sessions, either at Ghent University, either at Cacaolab. And we visit several companies usually during these 2 weeks. The participants also get a chance to bring beans from their own country and to process them from bean to bar on a lab scale. And at the end of the workshop, they have that chance to taste the chocolates they made themselves, which is really nice. And after these 2 weeks, they really have increased knowledge on the whole process from bean to bar. And also including the functionality of the different raw materials that are used in chocolates. If you follow our social media, or if you go to our website, you can find more information about the workshop. Normally, we will make a decision regarding the next edition after the summer. We will start communicating in September or October about this. So if you're interested, please follow us on our social media. Here you can see some pictures that give an impression on one of the previous workshops. As you can see, we have participants from countries all over the world. Of course, mainly we focus mainly on participants from co-producing countries, but in the last couple of years, we also had several participants from European countries, and we had already participants from Indonesia. And just to give one example, maybe some of you know her, Sabrina Mustopo is someone from Indonesia that followed our workshop 2013. She actually founded also farmer-to-bar chocolate making company, Cacao. And her mission is to improve the lives of Indonesian farmers and the sustainability of the cocoa farming sector, which is a very nice initiative. We still follow her via social media. And this is one of the many examples. Of course, there's also Dimas, who followed our workshop, I guess, also in 2013, and who did afterwards his PhD research in the lab of Professor Koen Dewettinck. He finished that a couple of years ago, back in Indonesia, and one of the organizers of this workshop. So we are very happy with his invitation to participate to this workshop. There is also another example, is Arifin Saptro, who is also an Indonesian guy who did his PhD as well in the lab of Professor Dewettinck, is now back in Indonesia. So we still have good collaborations. So it's great to be by organizing this workshop that we create all around the world, and that we can actually increase the knowledge of the participants. And it's amazing to see how they bring this knowledge back to their country and do something locally with the farmers, and create their own companies in order to increase the cocoa and chocolate quality in general, and to also increase the life and working conditions of the farmers. So they can help to train the farmers to have higher yield and so on. So we are very proud that we can contribute to this through this workshop. And we hope to see some of you in one of our future workshops as well. Okay, thank you. I would like to thank you for participating. And now I would like to give the floor to Yanni first, or directly to Professor Dewettinck, who will give the next presentation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Claudia. We will get you back later after Professor Dewettink's lecture. So, all right, now I'd like to invite our first speaker, Professor Koen Dewettinck, to the screen. Professor Dewettinck, are we good to start?
Yes, we are. I hope you can hear me. Thank you.
Yes.
I will share my screen. So I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. First of all, dear colleagues, dear friends from Indonesia, you cannot imagine how happy I am to contribute to this webinar. I'm very happy because of several reasons. First of all, there is a long tradition of collaboration with Indonesia, with my lab, but also with Cacaolab. And that resulted, Claudia already mentioned, with several people from Indonesia doing PhD research in my laboratory, also in collaboration with Cacaolab. And that resulted in a very strong collaboration with those Indonesian institutes, like Sebelas Maret University, but not only collaboration, but also a lot of friendship. So I would like to thank my dear friends and colleagues, Danar and Dimas, for keeping up this strong collaboration and inviting us to this prestigious seminar. So thank you very much. Let me first start by explaining a little bit my position at Ghent University. Now, Ghent University is a very old university in Flanders. It exists over 200 years. It was even founded by the Dutch people when Belgium was still not independent. So the Dutch king established the university. And in particular, I belong to the faculty of Bioscience Engineering, where I'm leading a research group. This group is called Food Structure and Function. Here you see a picture of the group, the collaborators. I will not mention all the names in detail, but you can already see at the first glance that we have a very international team. Today, we still have 2 PhD students from Indonesia, Indria, who is working on cocoa powder and functionalizing cocoa powder so can be used in cooked drink, other food matrices, but we also have Nathaniel, who is working on 3-dimensional printing, 3D printing of chocolate as well, which is part of a very large research project. Besides that, we have collaborators from Vietnam, from Greece, from Mexico, from China, and of course, there are a few Belgians too, amongst myself, of course, and my dear colleague, Professor Philippe van Bokstalen. So what is my research group doing? Well, obviously, we focus on food, but we see food as very complex systems. The food composition is very important, but not only the components that are there, but also how they are interacting with each other is very important. So we focus also on the functionality in complex matrices of these food components. So the function of the components, how they are interacting with each other is also very important, and that is what we focus on in our research group. Now, when you bring these two together, you see that we focus on these interactions and especially how these components are creating underlying structure at a nanoscale, at a mesoscale, and how these interactions influence the final food quality attributes, like the sensory attributes, of course, very important. How sustainable is the complex food, which is also very important these days. The stability, the safety, and I can continue. So that's why we changed our name from Food Technology and Engineering a couple of years ago to this new name, Food Structure and Function. Okay, so what are the complex food systems that we focus on in this laboratory? Now, we have a long history in dairy products like cheese, like yogurts. But today, because of climate change, we are also focusing on dairy analogs. What are these? Those are products which look very similar like dairy products, but they do not contain dairy components. They only contain plant-based components. So that is a very important field of research. We also have a long history in investigating oils and fats for several years, and especially their functionality in bakery systems like cookies, like bread, is also investigated. And then today, very important in this webinar, we have a long history in doing research on chocolate and confectionery products. Like Claudia Delbaere mentioned, my first publication on chocolate dates from 1996, so we can say 25 years of chocolate science, of chocolate research and development. But this scope is not finished to these three categories. We also focus on other products where we deal with microstructure-based product development. For instance, we are doing research on insect components, insect oil, insect proteins. How can we use them in foods? We also work on, for instance, cell cultures of meat. So lab produced meat. And so this is also part of a large project, which is Custo meat. And I can continue. So we also focus on new types of foods based on drivers in society that ask for innovative products that are tasty, sustainable, healthy, and of course, affordable. People must be able to buy it as well. So we established different organizations, different structures, like a Milko-Bell chair on dairy research. We have the sensory lab, focusing on the sensory properties. I established in 2012 the Van der Moortle Center Lipid Science and Technology with Van der Moortle Lipids, a very large company. And not to forget, I established also in 2012 Cacaolab as a spin-off company. It was founded in 2009 and it became a spin-off company in 2012. And we are very happy, of course, that Claudia Delbaere is today the general manager of Cacaolab. So she's coaching, managing a whole team, like she presented different research topics, collaborating with the industry. And not to forget, I am also chairman today of the Center of Excellence of Ghent University on Feed, Food and Health. So, and this part of my lecture, if you want to investigate the complex interactions between components, you need to do that at different length scales. So we use atomic force microscopy, X-ray diffraction to study these interactions at a molecular scale. We use X-ray scattering to study these interactions at a micro scale. We use polarized light microscopy, scanning electron microscopy to study these interactions as well. So doing so by focusing at the nanoscale, mesoscale, microscale, and how this reflects at macro scale in the product quality attributes. Doing so, we investigate the complex interactions and create new innovative foods. So, show you an example, is a scan electron micrograph of cheese, where you see the interacting casein mice cells creating the gel structure, the three-dimensional gel structure of cheese. We focus on laminated dough, for instance, of croissants. We focus on ice cream, and we focus on margarines, where you, of course, have water droplets stabilized in an oil continuous matrix as well. This is just some highlights. These are just some highlights to illustrate what we are doing in the lab. And finally, that brings me to the second part of my presentation. We focus also on the complex nature of chocolate and similar products. So this is a scanning electron microscopic graph. So a micrograph, a scanning electron microscopy result, where you see sugar crystals, where you could see cocoa particles embedded in the three-dimensional structure of partially crystallized cocoa butter. So we all know chocolate like this delicious product, but when you look under the microscope, it looks like this. If you understand how the different components in chocolates are interacting, you can make new types of chocolates, like Dimas has been doing in the past, where he studied the inclusion of cinnamon products in chocolate, but also Arifin from another university in Indonesia. He studied, for instance, the functionality of palm sap sugar. Palm sap sugar, very important in Indonesia, like you all know. And we created chocolate with palm sap sugar, and it was a very nice product, by the way, very delicious as well. Okay. So these are my contact details. You can always follow me also on Facebook, on Twitter and LinkedIn. So that brings me to my next presentation, or the part where I will focus now more in detail on the science behind the quality and taste of Belgian chocolate. Now, on this particular slide, you see Belgian chocolate, but also Belgian chocolates with an S. And there is actually a difference, as I will explain. And in both areas, on both product categories, Belgium is very much renowned. So both on Belgian chocolate, we call this the industrial chocolate production, but also the derived products, the Belgian chocolates. And of course, you all know these as the famous Belgian pralines. The presentation contains confidential information, so that is important to mention. But still, I would like to start with what is Belgian chocolate. Now, we all know Belgium for several high-quality foodstuffs. For instance, Belgian fries, for instance, Belgian waffles, very well known, not to forget Belgian beer, but today we focus on Belgian chocolate. What is Belgian chocolate? Well, I will try to explain. First of all, Belgian chocolate relates to tradition. We have a long tradition in manufacturing chocolate and derived products. But can we really talk about a tradition? We have to be humble. We have to stay modest. Now, you see here who have the equator, the countries that produce cocoa. Let's not forget, in Belgium, we do not have cocoa cultivation. We produce chocolate, but we can do this without a strong interaction and collaboration with countries where the cocoa is being produced. Without high quality cocoa, there is no possibility of producing high quality chocolate. For instance, cocoa is being produced, as you know, in Africa, especially West Africa, where about 60% or even more of the worldwide cocoa production takes place, but also, of course, in Latin America, and not to forget, also Indonesia, which is a very important cocoa producer as well. So here you have the cocoa producing countries, where you have Belgium, a tiny country over here. A tiny country with 11 million inhabitants. So can we really talk about a tradition? Because we have to acknowledge that there is already 4,000 years of cocoa history. It was created, or let's say already produced by the native people in Latin America. We talk about the region around Mexico, also here, region of Colombia, the Amazon forest. There you have already for 1,000 years ago, by the Maya people, by the Aztecs, cocoa being produced. But is only, I should say, 190 years young. So there is a big difference in time scale. But okay, taking that into consideration, we can still say that there is something like Belgian chocolate, because since Belgium was created as a small country between the world powers in Europe, we have been building up a lot of expertise in this area. So let's focus on that. Let's focus on the most important highlights in the Belgian chocolate industry. Well, before Belgium was created, already in the 1700s, in the region which is now Belgium, we first chocolateries opened in Belgium. So that is quite amazing, I would say. Then in 1890, the European countries, because Belgium was a very important leader in this, they took already steps to legally protect what is chocolate. Because chocolate has a certain composition, has certain ingredients. So Belgium was already playing in the 19th century an important role in this area as well. Where is Ghent University? In 1906, a person called Leo Bakeland, who is an alumnus, a PhD alumnus of Ghent University, he invented the first plastic material. It is called bakelite. You see, it was called after him. And that bakelite, that plastic material, was used to create chocolate molds, which is very important for the manufacturing of the Belgian chocolates and pralines. Another highlight is around 1906 as well, the Cacaolab family established a factory in Wies, which is now belonging to the very big international group Barry Cacaolab. Now in Wies, it's still the chocolate factory active, and it is actually the largest chocolate factory in the world. So their production is the highest in the world, production by a single factory. So the largest chocolate factory still in Wies, which is very close to Ghent. And then important, 1912, Jean Neuhaus launches what he calls the Belgian praline in this typical box, which is called a ballotin. So we are famous. We have a long tradition in the production of chocolate, the industrial chocolate, but also we are famous in transforming it into complex chocolate products, delicious products, which are the Belgian pralines. So Belgian chocolate means made in Belgium. So this is legally protected. When you have on package or a label Belgian chocolate, it should be made in that small country in Europe. So let me briefly introduce the cocoa and chocolate business in Belgium. Well, the grinding of the beans, that means turn the beans into cocoa liquor and processing into cocoa powder and cocoa butter, that is happening in Belgium, but these grinding activities are not the most important activity that we have. These activities are very important, for instance, in the Netherlands and also in Germany. So the intermediate ingredients like cocoa mass, the cocoa butter, the cocoa powder are often acquired, not always, but often acquired, imported from elsewhere. Not only, but it happens a lot. So the port of Antwerp is a very important port in the EU. It's the second most important port for storage and throughput of these products. So that is also very important to mention. But there you have it. The production of industrial chocolate, either starting from cocoa beans or intermediate products, that is very relevant in Belgium, and especially also in Flanders. So Barry Cacaolab Puratos Belcolade, Mondelez International, they are all producing industrial chocolate on Belgian soil. And that chocolate can also be called, therefore, Belgian chocolate. Yeah? It can be happening in Flanders or in Wallonia, like Cargill is producing it in Moeskroen. So 20% of the world production of industrial chocolate, so 20%, that is a very big quantity. This is happening in that small country, Belgium, in Europe. So very important to mention this. Belgium chocolate, what does it mean? It means from high quality ingredients. We cannot make high quality Belgium chocolate from non-quality beans. For instance, the beans must be fermented properly. The beans must be dried properly. So high quality beans are essential in ensuring the quality, the high quality of the final product. To give you an example, basically the three types of chocolate. Barry Callebaut would say there is a fourth type, the ruby chocolate, which is a bit pink in color. But still, okay, today we essentially agree that there are three basic types. There is dark chocolate, in which you have cocoa butter combined with cocoa liquor. So these components are the cocoa-derived components. There can be quite a lot of sugar there, between 40–50%, but you have also dark chocolates with a reduced sugar content, no milk ingredients, and a bit of soy lecithin is normally added 0.4–0.5% to ensure the good rheology of the molten chocolate. So this is dark chocolate. Milk chocolate contains also cocoa butter, cocoa liquor, quite a lot of sugar, depending on the formulation, of course, but also milk ingredients. We are talking about the inclusion of a significant amount of milk powder. That can be spray-dried milk powder or roller-dried milk powder or combinations. Also here, we'll add a bit of lecithin to ensure the good rheological properties of the liquid milk chocolate. And then you have white chocolate. Some people say white chocolate is not really chocolate. I do not agree. White chocolate contains a significant amount of cocoa butter, which is cocoa derived, but no cocoa liquor. That is true. That's why the color is very much different from milk and dark chocolate. Also here, a substantial amount of sugar and a lot of milk powder is added here as well, beside lecithin. So these are three basic types of chocolate. And you see, in all these products, either white, milk, or dark chocolate, we need high-quality cocoa ingredients to ensure the quality, the high quality of the end product. But Belgian chocolate is also a lot of know-how, a lot of expertise, especially with respect to the processing, the different steps that are applied in the process to turn these high quality ingredients into the end product. To give you an idea of the process scheme of chocolate production, you see that cocoa liquor, cocoa butter, combined with sugar and milk powder in the case of milk or white chocolate, they are to be mixed and they are refined and conched, where we normally add some extra cocoa butter and an emulsifier. Now, these first steps are very important. Here you see a picture of a roll refiner that we are using in our lab. Now, these roll refiners should be used in the very proper way to ensure the particle size distribution of the particles that are present in the chocolate. The particle size should be small enough because otherwise the chocolate will feel sandy in your mouth. You will sense particles in your tongue. But the particles should also not be too small because then the chocolate, when it melts in your mouth, it will sense too dry. There will be some kind of dry sensation, which is also not good. So controlling the particle size distribution of the sugar particles, of the milk powder particles, but also the cocoa particles is a very important step. Then you see here the crushing process. The crushing process is a high shear intensity process where you are mixing the chocolate mass for very long time, several hours. What happens here? Well, at certain temperatures, under these high shear conditions, some components are evaporated, like acetic acid, but other components are created in the chocolate. The flavor precursor molecules are further turned into flavor molecules, for instance, by the Maillard reaction. So unwanted components are removed and desired components are created. But not only the composition is tuned, also the rheological properties are tuned in the conching process. So also in Belgium, we have a lot of expertise in controlling this conching. And then you also have the tempering. Now, this is Beatrice from Cacaolab, hand tempering the chocolate. Now, chocolate contains a lot of cocoa butter. Cocoa butter can crystallize in polymorphs. You have to make sure that it is crystallizing in the right crystal polymorph, because if this is not done, the chocolate will not demold properly, but also the chocolate will lose its shiny surface very rapidly. And also the melting properties will not be right in the mouth. So to ensure the good stability and the good sensory properties, one must make sure that also the tempering is done in the proper way. So the tempering, which is turn the liquid chocolate into the solid chocolate. So we all know chocolate, a very obvious product, but when you look to the production process, you see that it is a very complex process. So you have to focus not only on the high quality ingredients, but you also must master this complex process of turning these ingredients into a high quality end product. I already mentioned in the beginning of my lecture that you have on the one hand Belgian chocolate, also have the Belgian chocolates. So we are also turning it into many derived products where Belgian chocolate is included in complex derived products. Now, the most well-known Belgian chocolates are what we call the pralines. So a lot of companies, a lot of small and medium-sized companies. So some companies only consist of one person, a chocolatier that is doing the job. Some are a bit big, and some are very big, like No Hives or Godiva, Leonidas, Gillian. But we have a lot of companies, a vast number of companies that are producing the famous, world-famous Belgian pralines. What is a praline? Well, basically, it is a chocolate shell where you have in the middle a filling. That filling can be a fruit-based filling, for instance, or it can be a chocolate-based filling like a ganache, or it can be another type of filling where you are very creative and combining certain components together. The thing is that these fillings have a certain thermodynamic stability and they interact with the chocolate shell. So you have to make sure to control this interaction to make sure that shelf life of these pralines is okay. Because a lot of these pralines are exported worldwide and they should have a shelf life, a stability of 6 months, but even longer, preferably 9 months or even a year. And that is actually still a very big challenge today. But we are not only focusing on the tradition, so we do not have only a long tradition based on a vast amount of expertise in Belgium, but especially with Cacaolab and Ghent University, we are also thinking about innovating products based on important worldwide drivers. For instance, the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. So to give you an idea, with Ghana, we had, for instance, a 5-year project where we were focusing on sustaining the high-quality cocoa production in Ghana. because of climate change. Situation is changing in Ghana, but also the farmers get older, the trees get older. So we were collaborate with my good friend, Professor Emmanuel Afuakwa from Ghana University, where we collaborate with over 700 farmers in the different regions to get the picture what is happening in Ghana and how can we ensure sustainable high-quality cocoa production. We focus also on post-harvest co-processing. So we focus on fermentation and drying. We focus also on the presence of bioactive components. So together with the Free University of Brussels, Luc de Vuist, we are also studying how fermentation can stress of those healthy antioxidants, bioactive components. We also focus on the genetic diversity. For instance, with Ecuador, we have done a research, also with Vietnam. We focus on product level on the fat crystallization, but also reformulation. Can we replace sugar by other sweeteners? For instance, the research of Arifin was focusing on the use of palm sap sugar. But we also did a research with Roger Aidu from Ghana, where we were focusing on the use of inulin in chocolate. We also focus on innovative chocolate processing, especially small-scale processing. So small companies are being able to put themselves cocoa beans into chocolate. So not starting from the industrial, for instance. We focus, as I already showed you, on the microstructure. And so how these components are interacting, the flow behavior and the sensory properties of the chocolate. We focus on stability issues and sugar bloom, which are related to the shelf life. We focus on chocolates with an ethnic culinary tradition. So, for instance, the research of Dimas was investigating the use of cinnamon, which is a very important flavor component. And he actually studied stability or different ways to introduce cinnamon, which is an ethnic culinary ingredient, into chocolate product. He did that, by the way, very successfully, and you can notice this from the several publications. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. This was only a short presentation, but as my colleagues from Indonesia already mentioned, this is a pre-event. More information will be dealt with later on in October when we have the actual seminar in collaboration with the Sebelas Maret University. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Koen Dewettinck, for your nice presentations that made us craving for chocolate so much. Okay, so all right, now I would like to let Claudia to get back to the screen to deliver your lecture.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah,
yes.
So next 20 minutes is yours.
Yes, I will, well, in the next minute, I will go to current trends in the Belgian cocoa chocolate industry, but we see that also these trends are not only valid in Belgium, but are also, can also be applied worldwide. Previously, Professor Dewettinck talked about filled chocolates, pralines, and about their thermodynamic stability or stability. Due to the fact that we bring a filling in contact with the chocolate shell, we might have some quality issues, and we might have several problems that can occur in these products. Now, that has a major impact on the shelf life of the pralines. Now, if we look at shelf life, there is on the one hand the microbiological shelf life, meaning that in pralines or in fillings containing water can have growth of bacteria, yeasts, and molds. And in fillings with lower water activity, also osmophilic yeasts and xerophilic molds can grow. So this should be prevented, and this might be an issue in pralines. When talking about shelf life, we also have to focus on physical chemical shelf life, meaning how do the melting behavior, the hardness, the bloom cracking behavior and collapsing behavior evolve during storage of the praline. So this is also a challenge to prevent a deterioration of the pralines during shelf life. Then thirdly, there is also the chemical shelf life, and this is mainly referring to fat oxidation. And most of the fillings that are used contain quite a high amount of fat, and certain fats are very prone to oxidation, and this can lead to undesired tastes, and that can be found during storage. So this brings me also to the final one, which is our organoleptic shelf life. So how does the taste evolve during storage? If we have a very good taste right after production, we of course want to maintain that taste, that good taste, as long as possible in the final product. Now, microbiology shelf life is important for food safety reasons, first of all, and we have to avoid the growth of pathogens or these osmophilic yeasts and xerophilic molds in the products for the consumer's health. But also there is the legislation that we have to take into consideration. And so we have to ensure that the products are safe to consume even after several months of storage. The other ones are more important for economic reasons. So companies, they do not want to sell products that turn into very nasty tasting products after some weeks or months. So they want the consumers to accept their products even after several months of shelf life. So that is the main reason why companies also focus on physical, chemical, and organoleptic shelf life. Now, we can make a distinction between different types of fillings. If we look at fat-based fillings that are typically made of ground nuts mixed with some sugar, for instance, there is a phenomenon of fat bloom that might occur in this product. Here in this image, you can see pralines that are fully covered with fat bloom crystals at the surface, and this results in a whitish grayish layer on the surface, which is actually undesired. This is a huge quality problem in the chocolate industry, and it leads to a shelf life reduction, hampering of the export. Belgian chocolate companies export a lot of their products worldwide, and this has a direct impact. And it also leads to rejection by the consumers. So all of these reasons, these are reasons why companies are looking for solutions to prevent fat bloom or delay fat bloom formation as long as possible. Now, it's already over 10 years ago, but we did a questionnaire amongst 21 Belgian companies related to this quality issue. And we discovered that 57% of the companies and sometimes has problems with fat bloom, and 38% of the companies frequently has problems with fat bloom in filled chocolate products. So we can say that almost all companies have to deal with this. It's simply due to the fact that we bring a filling in contact with the chocolate shell, which is a thermodynamically unstable system and which wants to evolve towards an equilibrium, and so it's impossible to completely prevent fat bloom. In the end, all chocolate will show fat bloom, but it's something that is important to deal with and to try to find strategies to delay this fat bloom. Now, fat bloom is mainly seen in milk or dark chocolate combined with these nut-based fillings. And the reason is that nut-based fillings contain a lot of unsaturated, contain oils with a lot of unsaturated fatty acids that can easily migrate to the chocolate shell and accelerate the formation of fat crystals. Now, if we look at the pralines under the scanning electron microscope, we can see a clear difference between a fresh chocolate that looks very shiny and very nice left side. And we see that the surface of these chocolates is quite smooth. But if we look at the ones that have been stored for a long time at elevated temperature, we see the formation of very a lot of needle-like sharp fat crystal structure at the surface. It looks very nice under the microscope, but the presence of these fat bloom crystals diffract the light that is inciding on the surface in a different way, and that makes the consumer sees the chocolate as covered with a whitish layer. Now, first of all, what we see is that there is a loss of gloss. The products turn less glossy during storage, and after a while, this whitish haze is formed. Some years ago, we wrote a review, a scientific publication on the importance of the microstructure and the fat bloom formation. I'm not going to explain it today. We will also give more information in the lecture, in one of the lectures in October. But what we have seen is that microstructure plays a crucial role in this fat bloom formation, as it has an impact on the amount of oil that migrates from the filling to the chocolate shell, and that in turn has a direct impact on the speed of fat bloom formation. The tortuosity, meaning the length of the path that the fat molecules have to follow in order to migrate from the filling to the chocolate shell, is extremely important. And also the structure density of the chocolate. We see that usually more dense structures, for instance, resulting from well-tempered chocolate, results in better stability towards fat bloom formation. Now, specifically looking at the tropics, if we are looking at Indonesia, for instance, the temperatures over there are much, much higher than here in Belgium and Europe. There are some more challenges that we see in case of filled chocolates. So there is on the one hand the high temperature, but also extremely important is the high relative humidity. Now, this means that we have to make chocolates that are more heat resistant. So if we want to develop a product for countries with a tropical climates. Now, the issues that can occur in these filled chocolates in the tropics are, again, fat bloom, but it's usually more pronounced. It's a different type of fat bloom than what we typically see in European climates, for instance. And sugar bloom can also be extremely important. So I haven't been talking about sugar bloom, but this is the result of sugar realization. And in this slide, you can see a praline, here a fresh praline with a scanning electron microscope on the left side that shows the surface of this praline, which is still very smooth in the beginning. But after a while, if this praline is exposed to high humidity, especially, and even in combination with a high temperature, what we see is that we have migration of moisture from the filling to the chocolate shell, and in this case the filling contains a substantial amount of water as well. This moisture migration leads to sugar crystals that dissolve. The sugar crystals from the chocolate dissolve in moisture. And you can see this moisture together with dissolved sugar appearing on the surface of the chocolate after all. Then within these areas, we can even notice the sugar that recrystallizes. So we can see very sharp sugar crystals, indicating that the sugar recrystallized. It can take all kinds of shapes. We can have very large sugar crystals after a while. And again, this leads to very unattractive products. And here, these products were exposed to high relative humidity and high temperatures, and they collapse. They show a whitish grayish layer on the surface, so they are very unattractive. And these are all stabilities that have to be tackled when you want to develop chocolates for the tropics. Here's some more images. It's something to be avoided. And I would be glad to talk more about this topic and about fat bloom in the lecture in October. Now, to end the presentation, I would like to give an overview of other trends that we see in the Belgian cocoa and chocolate industry. I'm not going into details today. We can maybe include that in the next lecture as well. So, but besides prolonging the shelf life and all the issues that I talked about before, we have also noticed that companies focus on an improved nutritional profile. For instance, they want to develop products with less sugar or no added sugar. They want to include more fibers in chocolate and other related products. They want to use more natural sugars, like, for instance, the palm nut sugar, which not refined, that also have some health benefits. We see also that there is a trend towards more proteins, not specifically in chocolate, because chocolate is protected by the European legislation, but in chocolate-related products like protein bars or snack bars, maybe also cocoa drinks and so on, see that there is also a trend towards more proteins. More cacao, meaning either a higher cacao content in the final chocolate. So then I'm talking about a chocolate with 70, 80, 90 cacao or cocoa. Also more cacao fruit. And we see that several companies like Nestle, but also Barry Callebaut are focusing on using, for instance, the fruit pulp to produce sugars that can then be used in chocolate. And that allows to make chocolate that is entirely made from the cacao fruits. And finally, there is also a clear trend lately towards plant-based and vegan chocolate products. So that is also something that we see is increasing tremendously the last couple of years. I think this gives an overview of all the current trends, and we would be more than happy to talk about this more into details in our lectures in October. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for the insightful presentations. Yes, I hope we can discuss more during the Q&A session. So I would like to check whether we have questions already from the participants. Okay, participants that would like to ask questions to the speakers, you have that chance. Just click the raise hand feature on your Zoom application and you see and view to the screen. Okay, so while waiting for the questions from the participants, I would like to open the question session. One question for me for Professor Dewettinck. You emphasize the importance of quality cocoa bean for producing Belgian chocolate. So how do you define the high quality cocoa bean? What aspects or features that should be there in the cocoa bean?
Okay. Thank you for your question, Rani. Well, first of all, there is the type of cocoa variety. You have Forastero beans, Criollo beans, you have hybrids, Trinitario beans, you have this, the famous Nacional beans, which are produced in Ecuador. So the variety is, of course, very important. So if you want to go for fine flavor cocoa, for instance, then Criollo beans or Trinitario beans are mostly preferred because they have, besides the chocolate notes, also they result in chocolate with flowery, fruity notes. So that is a first important aspect. So the type of cocoa variety. But then the environment where the cocoa is being produced is also very important. The trees should not be too old. The trees should be maintained well. So there should be efficient pruning of trees. When harvest the pots should be open as soon as possible, so not too much pot storage. Open the pots, and then there should be a proper fermentation taking place of several days. So the fermentation of the beans is also important to create, let's say, the desired flavor precursors that are turned into the final flavor of the chocolate. And then after the fermentation, which can take up to 6 days, the beans should be dried properly, because if they are not dried properly, you can have the growth of molds, which causes moldy flavors, but which can also result in the creation of mycotoxins, which are actually very unhealthy for humans. So the post-harvest treatments are also very important. So all these aspects should be considered carefully to produce high quality cocoa beans. I hope my answer is clear.
Yes, thank you. It's very good. So now there's a question from our participants, and she would like to ask directly to you. Miss Rahmawati from Universitas UPN Veteran. Okay. Since you'd like to ask directly, you can activate your camera and also microphone so that we can hear you clearly. All right.
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, Belgian chocolate should be made in Belgium, on Belgian soil. That is a first important aspect that should be fulfilled. But then also, like I mentioned in my presentation, Belgian chocolate is made according to the usage of high quality ingredients and also the mastering of the complex process to turn the high quality ingredients to the high quality end product. You cannot just make chocolate by mixing some ingredients together. There is a high complexity involved in the process. Complexity relates to the particle size distribution. The complexity relates to the melting properties. The complexity relates to the flavor components that are formed, the volatile and non-volatile flavor components. And the complexity relates to good tempering procedures. So, and that is even more complex, not only in the production of the Belgian chocolate as industrial chocolate, but turning this into high quality Belgian pralines with fillings even more. So that is what makes Belgian chocolate. The production in Belgium, on Belgian soil, but also the mastering of the whole production process, starting from high quality ingredients. Well, when somebody asks you what is Belgian chocolate, you should ask, it should be made in Belgium because there they have the long tradition, vast amount of expertise of making this high quality complex product. That is the best answer you can give. They want To learn more about that expertise, they should follow the webinar, which we will organize Sebelas Maret University with Ghent University Cacaolab in October. Or you can follow the workshop in Ghent University and Cacaolab are organizing this. I think somewhere in 2022, hopefully we will organize this. You're welcome.
So I think in response to the last questions, probably Koen or Claudia would like to explain what's the difference between real chocolate and the compound chocolate.
Yeah, that is a very interesting question, and I will give the floor to Claudia to answer that.
Thank you, Koen. Well, the main difference is the fat that is used. So in the real chocolates, we can use cocoa butter and also milk fat, because we can add milk fat as a pure ingredient, but it's also present in the milk powders that are used in whole milk, for instance. So besides cocoa butter and milk fat, in Europe, we are allowed to add maximum 5% of other fats, but it's limited to a list of 6 tropical fats. So it includes shea butter, it includes 6 different types of fat that can be used, but in a concentration of maximum 5% on the product basis. Most of the Belgian companies, they do not even use these fats in chocolate, so they even mention it on their packaging that it only contains cocoa butter and maybe some milk fats. But as soon as you use more than 5% of these other fats, or if you use even other fats that are not within this list, then the product can no longer be called chocolate. So it's no real chocolate, but then it's called a compound coating. And you have different kinds of compound coatings, but maybe the most important ones are the cocoa butter substitutes. And these are made, so the fats that are used in these substitutes are based on palm kernel oil and coconut oil. These are 2 lauric fats containing substantial amounts of C12 fatty acids, so contain 12 carbon atoms. And they have a completely different melting behavior and crystallization behavior compared to cocoa butter. So these compound chocolates usually do or normally don't require a tempering step, and they need cooling. So when it's melted and molded, you need to cool it very quickly in order to have stable crystals at the end product. And this results in a product that has a different melting behavior than real chocolate. Now, a second important difference is that because these fats, so the palm kernel oil and coconut oil, are not compatible with cocoa butter, we have to reduce the amount of cocoa butter present in compound chocolates. If we would use cocoa liquor or cocoa mass, which contains roughly 55% of cocoa butter, we would have an excessive softening of the compound chocolate, which is undesired, and due to this incompatibility between cocoa butter and the lauric fats. So that is the reason why in compound chocolates, usually cocoa powder is used, and even fat-reduced cocoa powder, which contains only between 10 and 12% of cocoa butter. So this combination of using cocoa powder instead of cocoa mass or cocoa liquor and using different types of fats results in a completely different taste and melting profile compared to chocolate. Of course, why would you use this? It has some advantages as well. And a big advantage is that you have more flexibility with the fats. You can, for instance, increase the melting temperature of the compound with maybe 1 or 2 degrees compared to real chocolate, which can be interesting if you want to increase the heat resistance of your chocolate. Another reason why companies are using compound chocolate, producing compound chocolate, is that not always, but often the fats are cheaper compared to cocoa butter, as cocoa butter is a very expensive raw material. So the fats are cheaper, and that is another reason why it's used.
Okay, all right. So I think to answer these questions, because in Indonesia, most of chocolates consumed by consumer are compound chocolate one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rather than
indeed.
the real chocolate. So that's
Yes.
besides compositions, the behavior also different.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Okay,
Indeed.
thank you. So we go with the second question. There is a participant, Ibu Leli Suryani, Miss Leli Suryani, from Do It Chocolate and Soya Fiber. Okay, please, Ibu, you can come to the screen and ask your question. Okay, thank you, Ibu Leli. Okay, so maybe Koen would like to go first to answer the question.
Okay, thank you for your question. I will start by saying that chocolate and fruit go very well together. So they combine very well. We also do that in Belgium. In the creation of Belgian pralines, for instance, a lot of Belgian pralines are made with a fruit-based filling that go very well. But there are also innovative ways to introduce fruit in chocolate, especially as a natural sweetening component. For instance, the introduction of dried fruit in chocolate is also offering opportunities, because then you can reduce the sugar content or even eliminate maybe the sugar content and still have a product with a sweet sensation. So that is a very interesting combination. But having said that, when you introduce fruits or fruit purees or any kind of fruit-based product in chocolate, be aware of the complex interactions that might take place. You should control these interactions to make sure that the end product has a desired stability. I now give the floor to Claudia. Maybe she wants to add some further information.
Yes, well, what we see is indeed that there is, if we look in the supermarket, that we see more and more products that combine chocolate with fruit. So our customers ask more and more questions about this. It's something that goes very well. The taste-wise, the two products get along very well. Stability issues are important to consider in case the fruit ingredient contains some water. But yeah, there are many different ways of combining fruit. You have the dried products. You have fruit purees, which contain quite a lot of water, whereas the dried ones usually have only low water content. So depending on the fruit ingredient, we have to think what are the issues that we have to take into consideration to have a stable product.
Okay, hope this answers your question, Ibu Leli. Okay, so I would like to proceed with the next questions. Okay, third one.
Okay. Well, I will start by answering the question because I'm not sure if Claudia knows the tropical fruit durian.
Yes,
but
I know
okay.
it, and I tasted it myself even. And in
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I tasted it a lot already in the past. It's a delicious fruit, delicious fruit. I tasted it in Indonesia, also in Vietnam. But having said that, durian has a very pronounced flavor. You might be aware of that. So you have to be careful with the combination with durian because maybe it can be too overwhelming, too pronounced. But it is a possibility. It is a possibility. Are you thinking of choosing durian as a durian fruit puree or dry durian? What is your idea?
Ibu Lely? The short one, please.
Yes, I'm familiar with soy fiber. I'm familiar with different types of fibers. The introduction, it's from? Tofu. Is it made from the okara?
Tofu.
Tofu, yes. Is it fiber made from tofu or the byproduct of tofu? Okay. Well, I will answer the question in general. The introduction of fibers, chocolate, is a very interesting opportunity, especially when you want to reduce the sugar content. Fibers are used as a filling material when you replace sugar with other sweetening agents. Because sugar is not only a sweetener, chocolate, it also provides bulk, it provides mass. As I have shown you in my presentation, the amount of sugar can go up to 50% by weight. So if you reduce or eliminate sugar, you need something else. And you can use fibers to do so. But this is not easy because if you introduce fibers, this will change the structure of the chocolate. This will change the rheology. This might change the mouthfeel. This might change other sensory properties. But having said that, the introduction of fibers in chocolate is being investigated in many regions in the world. Claudia, maybe you have some additional comments?
Well, I also believe that it's possible to investigate the use of different types of fiber in chocolate. I can confirm that, or can tell that very often in Belgium, fibers based on inulin, extracted from chicorée, are being used in chocolate products. But yeah, there are many sources of fibers, and it would be worthwhile investigating the difference among them. But indeed, there are again some challenges related to using this raw material.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that's enough for you, Bu Lely. Yeah, you can have more longer discussion if you join the course in October.
Yes.
Make sure to join. Okay, so we would like to proceed with the next questions written in the chat box. And since the questions from several participants are quite the same, so I will read some. From Rika, Maslina, and also Matt Sepit from Kupang. It is related to the fat bloom. So maybe Claudia would like to answer first. Related to this issue, so what should be the perfect temperature, the processing, maybe during constant tempering to prevent this from happening? And what as well to implement to have a life of the chocolate and the heat resistance, especially when the chocolate is in the tropics area.
Yes, well, temperature is crucial throughout the whole process, but when we are talking about fat bloom, it's especially important during the tempering step. I cannot give recommendations or recommend one temperature that works for all different kinds of chocolates, because the fat composition of a dark chocolate is different than of a milk chocolate and then that of a white chocolate. It also depends on the equipment that is used to temper chocolates. Yes, you have different types of tempering devices, and depending on the principle, they require different temperatures. So actually for each chocolate and for each tempering machine, you have to find the optimal temperature to temper the chocolates in the most optimal conditions. Yes. It's very difficult for me to give recommendations there. It really depends on the machine and on the chocolate. What I can say is that usually for dark chocolate, slightly higher temperatures are used than for milk chocolate and for white chocolate. Because in milk and white chocolate, there is milk fat present, and milk fat has a lower, or combined with cocoa butter, it lowers the melting properties or the melting point of the cocoa butter crystals. So that is the reason why we work usually at somewhat lower temperatures for milk and white chocolate compared to dark chocolate. So then I'm talking about the difference of 1-2 degrees Celsius. Yeah. When you look at the storage, the ideal temperatures to store the chocolate products to prevent fat bloom are, well, usually we say between 15 and 18 degrees Celsius. So that's pretty low, especially for tropical countries. But we notice, for instance, if we store the product at 20 degrees Celsius or 23 degrees Celsius, that the ones at 23 degrees Celsius roughly develop fat bloom twice as fast as the ones stored at 20 degrees Celsius. So only a difference of 3 degrees can already have a major impact on the formation of fat bloom and the rate of this formation. Now in the tropics, it's more challenging to store the chocolate products at such temperatures. So it is important actually to have air-conditioned rooms and to have a kind of cold chain, not fridge temperatures, but let's say temperatures around 20 degrees C, if that's possible. That is really recommended. The higher the temperature, the faster you will develop fat. And if the temperatures of the surroundings reach temperatures that are close to the melting point of cocoa, which is around body temperature, so usually between let's say 34 degrees C and 36 degrees C, then of course we might have even complete melting of the cocoa butter in the chocolates. And if this chocolate then turns again into a salt product when it's at lower temperatures again, we can say that this chocolate might have even lost its temper degree and might be completely untempered and then have really uncontrolled crystallization and the formation of a different type of fat bloom as the product is no longer tempered. So to conclude, temperature during the tempering process, so during storage, is extremely important to prevent and delay fat bloom.
All right, thank you for the explanations. And there we have a lot of questions actually, but our time is quite limited. So I would like to mark that as a last questions. So we'll end these sessions actually. So for those who are not able to ask to the speakers your questions. I would like to apologize, but I'm sure that Claudia and Professor Koen, I think you are welcome for questions through email, I assume.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the participants are welcome to ask the speakers through emails anytime. And I think it's better if you join the international course of cocoa and chocolate in October, so you can have more time to discuss with speakers. Okay, all right. So I think, thank you, Professor Dewettinck and Claudia, for your nice presentations. Thank you, all the participants, for your enthusiasm. So for the course in October, all participants here are welcome. Students, lecturers, professionals, food enthusiasts are welcome to apply. We will give you information about that through email, and you can also check on our website later. Okay, so all right, end of the sessions. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for all the limitations that I'm showing. And last but not least, see you at the course of cocoa and chocolate in October. Thank you. I'll give back the time to the host.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Koen. This certificate for you as an appreciation for us, from us to you. Thank you so much, and we hope they will meet again in our workshop next October. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Danar, my good friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Claudia Delbaere, for your time and talks and discussion today. And please give our appreciation to the certificate from us to you, and we hope we can meet again to our workshop next October. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Thank you very much. It was really my pleasure to contribute to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Koen and Claudia.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was a great discussion.